I'm here today with a pretty amazing guy. His name is John Nicolau. And it's interesting how we connected because I think the universe kind of connects in special ways. So I put out there, we had a Q&A through the Starch Queens that somebody wanted to know about hemp oil. And then the next thing I know, Joe Shermer is connecting us. And wow, pharmacology. So John Nicolau, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Jean.
Well, tell me about your background and how did you get into this line?
Yeah, sure. So I guess about 2 years ago, I started working in a health food store. More aggressively at that time, I guess you could say, became more health obsessed than the past. I was always the guy that was going to the gym and following gym protocols. But I mean, I'm sure we can both say that, just because you're in good shape doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy. So I've become a little bit more health obsessed since I started working at that health food store. We were kind of getting this demand for CBD products. People were coming in, and I mean, me and my two business partners who were the owners of the health food store, we didn't really know too much about it. So we were just kind of like taking it, playing it by ear, and we were listening, and more demand, more people were inquiring about these things. And eventually we just started studying. I mean, me alongside them, we were just looking into it, and we were just kind of like astonished at the possibilities, the medical studies, the just pretty much the influence that it's had over healthcare that is not Western medicine, holistic medicine, I should say.
Right.
We initially just said like, hey, why don't we try and find the manufacturer and that we really vibe well with, that we kind of think has integrity and stuff like that. And we were like you just said, the universe kind of just aligns people sometimes. Mm-hmm. It was a good friend of ours' son who had moved out to Colorado to get into the industry, and he became one of the lead salesmen and shareholders at this company. And then I guess you could say it's all history from there. We hit it off. Initially, we started this brand that we were exclusive to my business partner's stores. They own 4 health food stores / pharmacies. And then, I'd say about 4 or 5 months ago, we just kind of said, hey, let's open up the floodgates and let's just make this a separate entity and try doing this, as a completely different operation.
Wow. Okay. So the name of the company is Pharmacology.
Right. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about Pharmacology.
Yeah, sure. So I guess you could say we're a health and wellness brand. That's what we like to say. Currently, we are CBD oriented. So we have 11 different SKUs. 6 of them are tinctures, where 3 are 300 milligrams in different flavors. 1 is unflavored, 1 is orange, and 1 is peppermint. Then we have the same flavors in 1,000 milligram, which is more of a high dose. Recommend somebody invest the money into something like that unless they're treating a particular kind of ailment that they're trying to beat or get over. Sometimes an even higher strength is required for certain circumstances. But if it's just a maintenance, we recommend the lower dose. Then we have 2 gel caps, which is a 10 milligram and then a 25 milligram, 25 obviously being the higher dose. And then we have 2 skin salves, which you're familiar with now. Mm-hmm. Currently, we're doing 1,000 milligrams and 2,000 milligrams, but we are exploring getting a 500 milligram into the equation just to kind of fill the gap. The 1,000 milligram, again, is still a high dose, so we'd like to just get some lower in there for the person that just wants to give it a shot. And then we have actually a dog treat. So it's a canine 2 milligram treat that's particularly for dogs. Because, the hemp and I should say marijuana as well, but the cannabis industry, generally speaking, for veterinary care has become just as popular, if not more popular than for humans.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So how are these products produced? I mean, how do you go from the farm to the jar?
Yeah, so we're actually affiliated with the largest fully vertical manufacturer in the country. So they're growing. They have I believe it's 20 or 25,000 square feet of just hemp growing. They harvest the hemp on premises. They manufacture it. They quarantine it. They extract the CBD. They remove the THC. They bottle it, add a little bit of grapeseed oil, and then they seal it. So it is such a controlled process because it doesn't leave the facility whatsoever. It stays under the same roof, it stays under the same farm, and it's never going here to get encapsulated or going there. So there's so much control and such a great relationship that we have with these people. So we're so confident. I'm pretty confident to look anybody in the face that's in the industry and say my product is better than yours, unless you're using the same manufacturer as me. Then God bless you, and we pat each other on the back. But yeah, we have such a great product and that we're really proud of.
Well, is it organic? Where is it grown?
Yeah, so it is. It's grown in Colorado, so it's 100% American made and bottled, all in the USA. Now, is the plants are organic, the soil is organic. Our manufacturer uses organic practices entirely. They're non-GMO, but they have not received the USDA stamp yet. That we're also familiar with, but they're in the process of it. Most people just kind of like walk through a supermarket, see that, and just pick it up. But it is a very extensive process and expensive as well to get that stamp on your product. So they're working on it currently. We're talking about that with them. We try not to be too annoying about it because it's frustrating for them, but they're working on it diligently.
Okay. So what is cannabinoid?
Yeah. So well, I guess let's start with the endocannabinoid system in the body. So there's an endocannabinoid system in the body. Most people may not even know that. It's similar to, think about the digestive system, or think about the muscular system or the skeletal system. It's an entire system that is throughout the entire, the human body. There's,
Where is this located?
throughout the body. So there's receptors in the skin, there's receptors in the brain, there's receptors throughout the digestive system. There's it's a system next to the other systems. But if you ask me, or if you ask anybody that's in the industry, they would probably tell you that it's more powerful and influential over all of the other systems in the body than any of the others. It can control things, from blood sugar to pain to, we'll dig deeper into that in a little bit. Cannabinoid, the endocannabinoid system, again, is a system throughout the whole body. Cannabinoids are compounds that are found in plants, even in tomato. It's not just hemp and marijuana, but it's just predominantly hemp and marijuana because of how concentrated it is in these plants. It's by far the highest cannabinoid content than any of the other plants, obviously. People hear cannabinoids, and I guess I would probably assume that most people's head will jump right to, cannabinoid, that's pot, like that stuff gets you high.
Yeah.
Understandable. I get it. THC is a cannabinoid, so is CBD. They are two different cannabinoids. THC gets you high. It binds perfectly to a receptor. Again, we'll get into that in a little bit, but it binds perfectly to a receptor that causes it triggers a psychoactive effect. Even that is, in my opinion, is still very subjective and debatable if it's bad and if it should be demonized.
But that's not this.
That's not this. That's my point. So I don't really want to dig into that. That is not this whatsoever. CBD is a completely different cannabinoid. Now, for the most part, CBD products in the industry do contain a little bit of THC. Ours does not. Our manufacturer finds the THC using chromatography and removes it completely. So there is no THC detected in our products whatsoever. It's kind of important to just say that CBD and cannabinoids, for the most part, I think there's 160 some cannabinoids known to man right now, and THC is the only one that has a psychoactive. So it's kind of like, it's just very judgmental and myopic to just say that THC gets you high, so just completely ignore this system, completely ignore this science. CBD has become so popular and helpful for so many people. There's so many people that come to me and they're just like, this changed my life. Like, literally, this changed my life. It's just, it's tremendously beneficial in terms of health, wellness, and medicine, generally speaking.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we hear about this? I mean, do they teach this in medical school? What? Why don't
Yeah.
how come I'm not? I haven't heard about this.
So, I mean, again, do they teach us in medical school? It is not taught. I mean, I have a friend of mine that has just graduated from pharmacy school. So she's a licensed medical professional, and she didn't learn not a single bit about the endocannabinoid system. If you ask me, I can go on and on about why and why that's the case. I feel there's a lot of corruption. It's a threat. It's a threat to many different industries, not just, which is why it's been so demonized. It's a threat to the farm industry, obviously. It's a threat to the back in the day to the paper industry. It's a threat to construction industry. It's great for building material. It's great for paper. It's great for construction, generally speaking. So I feel that it's kind of been hidden and forbidden to talk about and to teach because of its relation to marijuana and THC. But it's two different, cannabis is cannabis, and then there's marijuana and there's hemp. Two different things,
Right. Well, can you discuss what are some of the things that the CBD can help with?
Yeah, definitely. So I guess before digging into that, I just, it's there's a chronic deficiency in cannabinoids. I would say throughout the United States, up until recently, because obviously, as you know, marijuana and CBD is legal in every state now for a few years. Marijuana is slowly getting legalized, so it's becoming more normal to hear the word CBD and to hear about marijuana and THC. But it's been a chronic deficiency that, it can cause many different things. If you just, do your own research and just look it up on what these, there's people saying that Alzheimer's is solely due to the fact that the endocannabinoid system has been so malnourished in a person's body that eventually dementia occurs. Pain, epilepsy, and just so many different things that it can treat and help.
Wow.
But the deficiency in the early 1900s, there was hemp everywhere. Hemp is like a weed. I don't know if you're familiar with the plant, but you can't kill it. Like, it is just this massive plant. It's huge. It's so durable and it's so beneficial for your health. So it's just kind of like, wow, this is amazing. Why would we ever get rid of it? But in 1937, before I say that, hemp was everywhere, like I said, and livestock used to feed on hemp. They used to walk around and graze wherever they wanted, like in a traditional farm, and they used to feed on hemp, and their byproducts used to contain cannabinoids. Then in 1937, the United States government bans feral and cultivated hemp. So there's no more hemp. It's eradicated completely, and replaces it with GMO corn and GMO soy. So what happens? We create a toxic byproduct. We shovel it down Americans' throats as marketing and for the dairy industry and stuff like that just starts getting forced on, and it's a toxic byproduct when these it's just and then what do you see in the 1940s and the 1950s? You start seeing spikes of cancer. You start seeing spikes of dementia and Alzheimer's. You start seeing spikes of diabetes. It's just, you remove something, you replace it with waste. Literally, GMO corn and GMO soy, in my opinion, are toxic waste. I wouldn't feed it to my dog. And they start feeding it to the essentially the food that 90% of America is just shoveling in their face with no acknowledgement for a vegetable or for a legume or a grain. You take it from there. So you get a deficiency in these things, and everybody's going to respond differently. I might develop psoriasis. I might develop IBS. I might develop, epilepsy or start having seizures, and you start treating it with drugs and pharmaceutical medicine, but you're not, it's a Band-Aid, a
You're
pharmaceutical
not dealing with
drug.
the cause.
It's not dealing with the cause. Exactly. A doctor, I shouldn't say any doctor, most doctors are just slapping a bandage on the issue. They're slapping a bandage, and then at 50 or 55 or 60 years old, that person's going to have a heart attack, or they're going to have some kind, they're going to develop tumors because the drug is not curing the issue. It never does. It never does.
Well, what are some of the things that the CBD oil can help with?
Sure. Yes. Sorry. So CBD, generally speaking, can help with many different things. I mean, it can help. We have the skin salves, like I mentioned before. Those will help with psoriasis. They'll help with eczema. They'll help with even acne. We've gotten reports that people are using it for acne, and that acne is disappearing. Then we have pain relief, generally speaking. If you have targeted pain, like if somebody has pain in their shoulder, for example, we're going to give them the skin salve, and we're going to say, hey, why don't you rub it into your shoulder, take a small amount, and slowly just massage it in there, and you're going to get some relief from it. When we have somebody that's coming in and talking about something like rheumatoid arthritis or just tremors and pains throughout their body, you can't recommend the cream and say, hey, rub this all over yourself. It's just, it's not reasonable. So we'll recommend a high dose tincture. So you ingest it, you ingest a high milligram.
So you put is that sublingual?
It is sublingual. We recommend that the patient or the customer puts a dropper full or 2 dropperfuls under the tongue and swishes around the mouth for 30 seconds, because you're absorbing more when it's surrounding the gums and the tongue, and then you swallow and you absorb more as it passes through your digestive system. And then, moving on from that, there's things like IBS that it's been, seizures. Like I said, just, we have the internet. So just anybody go and type CBD seizure, and you will see tons and tons of videos of people having ridiculous seizures, very intense, almost like it's hard to watch. And they'll get a dose of high strength CBD, and all of a sudden, I'm talking like 20 seconds in, the person slows down, and eventually the seizures just disappear.
Wow.
I'm not the person that's going to tell you that it's a cure or that it's a cure-all or it fixes this or fixes that. We can't say those things, but just do your research. The proof is in the pudding.
Okay. Well, how does it help the body? How does the CBD, either the tincture or the cream, help the body deal with these ailments?
Right. So there are CB1 and CB2 receptors throughout the whole body. THC will bind perfectly. It is a cannabinoid that binds perfectly to the CB1 receptor, causing a psychoactive effect. It causes somebody to get quote unquote high. Right. CBD, however, is a cannabinoid that does not bind perfectly to any of the receptors. It just kind of flirts with them and stimulates them. So it wakes them up, and all of a sudden you have this system that's never been stimulated or never been awoken. Like I just said, you never knew it was there until you start nourishing it. So you start nourishing this system, and it has effects over the entire body. It's going to help everybody differently. If you're dealing with migraines, chronic migraines, all of a sudden you may see these migraines disappear. If you're dealing with chronic back pain, you may see the back pain disappear, because it's something that you don't know the capabilities it has on your body until you try it, because you've never had anything like it ever. It's not like a calcium supplement. It's not like, it's something that you need in the body.
Right. Wow. Did not know that.
Yeah.
Well, we connected through our good friend Joe, and immediately, because I was starting to think about, for my husband, he is dealing with a skin irritation, and the doctor immediately said eczema, but then he was tested for that, and they say it's not eczema, but it has eczema symptoms. So we got some of the cream and started using it on it. And one of the things that I noticed, he had severe itching. And I mean, he looks like a bear. I mean, he's like up scratching his back against the door jamb or a tree or whatever, and to itch. And so we started putting the cream on it. Oh my gosh. I mean, he noticed immediately that it calmed down and he wouldn't itch. Whereas before we had used like some of the creams and things that I have like through Pure Haven Essentials, which are non-toxic products, which would just kind of calm it, soothe it, but it wasn't, I think, taking it to the next level. So when we put the cream on, it was really, I could not believe the difference, for my husband. He, especially like if we put it on before bed, in the middle of the night before, when we were just using just a regular, like a body lotion kind of thing, in the middle of the night, he'd be like trying to scratch in the bed, and the bed's like, shaking around. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm so itchy. Now he can sleep through the night and he's not itchy.
That's great.
And so it's helping to deal with it. I mean, we still have to get to the root cause of whatever's causing this in his skin. We haven't got there yet. But so this is seriously helping to calm down this. So we're already we're already on jar number 2. So so he is very, very appreciative of this. So we found something that's going to help to calm his skin down. So
I'm glad. I recommend that everybody just get a low dose, just get some cheap, just try something that's a cannabinoid product, a CBD or just try we do a full, so ours is dominantly CBD, but it's a full spectrum oil. So there's still other cannabinoids and enzymes present. A lot of people will do what's called a CBD isolate. So they'll just isolate the CBD of the plant, but a lot of the times the manufacturing is a little bit brutal. They overheat it, it's highly refined, and it kind of kills the life of the plant, for lack of a better term.
Can you give an overview of how you process this? Just an overview.
Yeah, well, like I said, they just, they use the whole plant and whole stalk of the hemp, the hemp plant. So they're not isolating anything particular besides the THC to remove it and keep the product entirely legal. So a lot of the people will a full spectrum oil is just something that, in my opinion, everybody should just try it and see. You don't know what you might be missing in your well-being and your health. You may feel much better than you already feel, because again, this is something that everybody, you cannot, you're going to think, I mean, not you, but I should say, I sound crazy saying this, but you cannot achieve and maintain optimal health without nourishing and stimulating your endocannabinoid system. It doesn't exist. This is something that everybody needs, but it's this, a perfect example is you take cannabis, right? And cannabis has been, initially it was scheduled as a class 1 narcotic. It was scheduled next to crack and heroin. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And then, it's never caused an overdose, ever. Even, you forget about CBD, I'm even talking about THC, but just CBD, generally speaking, hemp has been banned and initially was considered a class 1 narcotic.
Right.
Now
you see hemp now coming back in. Like
hemp is coming back in because the industry is fighting and it's getting larger, and we're trying to make it known, like, hey, hold on a second. How are you doing this? Look at alcohol. When there's commercials about alcohol. You watch TV and you see a Grey Goose commercial. And I'm not saying that I don't drink. Of course, I have an occasional drink. Everybody does. I mean, not everybody, but most people do. But alcohol is literally poison. You're poisoning your body when you drink it. And it's legal. I would say it's almost encouraged. When I turned 21, it was almost like, okay, where are we going to drink? Because I'm legal now. But then you look at hemp or CBD, and it's this thing that's like a cannabinoid. It's like, oh, no. Like, that stuff gets you high, doesn't it? What does alcohol do? Alcohol makes you a mess. I've never seen somebody take a CBD supplement and become a mess. I've never seen that. It's just kind of like this thing that nobody's talking about and nobody really knows why. So
can you just get that, supplement your diet, like using like hemp to get the cannabinoid into your system?
Yes and no. You can if you're getting they have, like, if you just go and pick up hemp oil, for example, like for cooking or putting on your salad, it's not going to contain cannabinoids. Right. However, they make like our manufacturer makes a hemp protein, for example, that does have a small percentage of cannabinoids because they don't remove it or extract it. Whereas most of the things you'll find in your supermarket, that's not the business that these companies are in. They're there to make a hemp oil or a hemp protein that's dominant in some vitamins and in omega fatty acids, but they're not worrying or thinking about cannabinoids. So generally speaking, yes, but it's not readily available like that. You know, in 10 years, I'm sure we'll probably be talking about this and we'll say that, hey, yeah, now you can just get a hemp powder that you add into your smoothie.
Well, there is. I mean, I go to the health food stores and things, you know, or like Whole Foods, and you can find packages of hemp
protein. But again, this is not high cannabinoid strains of hemp. They're just grabbing any hemp, or obviously organic and still healthy. I'm not knocking it by any means, but it's not. They're not worrying about cannabinoid content. Whereas the CBD, I shouldn't say the CBD, but the hemp industry, in terms of like from a medicinal standpoint, is not worrying, but they're focusing on getting strains of hemp that are dominant in CBD and you know, a CBD percentage and very low in a THC percentage. So they're kind of forcing or making sure that their practice is CBD and cannabinoid rich. Whereas the hemp proteins and stuff like that, they're not focusing yet. You know, again, I'm sure in 3, 4, 5 years, they will become more oriented around their products having cannabinoids in them. But that's not the case because it's still such a touchy issue.
Right. Well, we need to educate people.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, John, thank you. You have been a plethora of knowledge and helped us to understand about this. So
I would love to do this anytime.
All right. Well,
I love talking about this. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Gene.